If I take for example the Black Sea, this is what you can understand very simply as a kind of a 6 setting around the Black Sea region. Okay, now what we are basically interested at this point of time is, let's say, since the Black Sea region is in news recently because of, let's say, you have within the Black Sea region a port by the name of Odessa. This is the busiest commercial port of Ukraine. This is Odessa, right? Now when we take a look at the context of Odessa, if you have to, for example, supply, let's say, movement of ships, let's say for example, if you take a look at wheat supply, Russia plus Ukraine is the world's largest exporter of wheat, right? And because of the problems which are arriving in the Black Sea region recently, what you are seeing is a kind of a sudden food crisis, because the wheat that is being supplied by Russia and Ukraine is getting stuck inside the Black Sea, right? The port of Odessa, which is the Ukrainian port, has been subjected to a blockade by the Russians. Blockade implies that the Russians have declared if the Ukrainians are going to move anything from Odessa, down to the, let's say, the Mediterranean Sea, then the Russians are going to bomb their merchant vessels. So what you are seeing basically is a kind of a crisis in terms of the wheat supply. A crisis of wheat supply because of the blockade which has been, let's say, exerted in the Black Sea by the Russians and the Ukrainians. So what we basically need to understand is ki how can, let's say, what is the route by which the Russians and the Ukrainians can move their cargo from the Black Sea region. That is basically what we're going to ask over here, right? So a very simple question is, what is the route for the Russian and Ukrainian cargo ships into the Mediterranean through the Black Sea? That is the question that we are going to, in a way, pinpoint for ourselves. And especially this has relevance with regard to what is known as the Black Sea Grain Initiative, which was something in the news recently. It was a program launched by the United Nations in which the Russian and the Ukrainian had come together to call a truce upon only one aspect, which is to allow for the passage of grains through the Black Sea, right? So the question is, what is the route of the Black Sea Grain Initiative, or what are the ways by which ships can move from Russia and Ukraine from the Black Sea into the Mediterranean Sea? And once they are in the Mediterranean Sea, then obviously they can reach out to the areas of Africa, West Asia, Atlantic Ocean and Europe. Okay, so just take a look at this part. Okay, I'm going to just elaborate this by the use of a map over here. So take a look at this. We are looking at a situation that rises like this, right? You can see this is the port of Odessa, right? And this is, let's say, for example, the port of Yesk. Let's say these are the two areas which are supposed to carry cargo into the Black Sea and from the Black Sea to the Mediterranean Sea. Okay, so if I'm, let's say, marking the black with the Russians, right? Let's the yellow with the Russians. Okay, now take a look at it. This is the route that the Russians have to take till here, right? Now note the points that I'm trying to mark over here. This sea, which lies at the intersection of Russia and Black Sea, is known as the Sea of Azov. Okay, and the strait which connects the Sea of Azov to Black Sea, this strait is known as the Kerch Strait. The strait that connects the Sea of Azov to the Black Sea is known as the Kerch Strait. You get a sense? So you have the Sea of Azov, which is lying between Black Sea and Russia, and you have the strait which is called the Kerch Strait. This indeed is Black Sea. This is the port of Odessa, right? So from the port of Odessa, these things are going to move over here, right? Now the way that things have to move from Black Sea into the Mediterranean parts of the sea is by what is known as a strait over here. Okay, so this strait which runs at the center over here, you can see, for example, if I zoom it in a little bit, you'll be able to see it. First of all, take a marking of this in your senses. Sea of Azov, the Kerch Strait, and as things are moving from the Kerch Strait downwards, you have reached Istanbul, right? So Black Sea doesn't have a direct access, open access to the international waters. It is lacked by, it is a kind of a landlocked area which has certain straits by which passages are accessed. Okay, so I hope that you've taken a look at the Kerch Strait, Sea of Azov, and the Black Sea, Odessa and Yeysk. Okay, now just let me zoom it in a little bit. If you take a look at this part, this is a strait, right? This strait is the way that the ships are going to use the passage over here. Do you see it? Okay, this strait is known as the the Bosphorus Strait, and this strait is under the control of Turkey. Okay, this is the Bosphorus Strait, and this strait is under the control of Turkey. Clear? This is Bosphorus, and Bosphorus is under the control of Turkey. Are we getting a sense of it? So a ship which is moving through the Black Sea region will meet these areas, and it has to take the permission of Turkey to use these straits, and this is the Strait of Bosphorus. Also something that gives extraordinary importance to Turkey and especially Istanbul in terms of having an access upon this region. Okay, just I'm going to zoom it out again and just take a look at this from a proper distance. You're moving from here through here. This is the Strait of Bosphorus. Okay, and then when you move from the Strait of Bosphorus, the water body into which you move is known as the Sea of Marmara, right? The Sea of Marmara. Right? When you're moving from the Strait of Bosphorus, the water body into which you move in this particular region is called the Sea of Marmara. And from the Sea of Marmara, you have to move further. Okay, again using a strait controlled by Turkey known as the Strait of Dardanelles. This is another strait controlled by Turkey known as the Strait of Dardanelles. Okay, once you cross the Strait of Dardanelles, you arrive at what is known as the Aegean Sea. Once you move from the Strait of Dardanelles, you arrive at what is known as the Aegean Sea. Do we understand, class? This is what is known as the Aegean Sea. And if you take a look at a zoomed out version of this map again, please get a sense of this. I'm going to mark it out properly. Okay, so here, take a look at this. Sea of Azov, Kerch Strait, Black Sea, Bosphorus, Sea of Marmara, Dardanelles, Aegean Sea. And from Aegean Sea, you move directly into the Mediterranean Sea, right? So, you know the markings over here very clearly. Sea of Azov, Kerch Strait, and here you get into the Mediterranean Sea. Okay, now this is, just as you would understand, the only possible way by which Russia and Ukraine can access the international waters. These are Black Sea is known as the warm water port for Russia. Okay, so you have to move like this from here, right, and then you enter into the Mediterranean Sea, and from Mediterranean Sea you can access Africa. Okay, you can access West Asia, you can access Europe, and further you can access, if you go through the Strait of Gibraltar, you can access Atlantics, which means, for example, you can move to North America and South America. Now, why is this route important? Because if you take a look at the map of Russia, the entire map of Russia, you would be able to see it is impossible for Russia to move into the international warm waters, to move into the international, maritime zones, except for the access that it has on the Black Sea region. If you don't have access to, if Russia doesn't have access to the Black Sea region, it is impossible for Russia to take a route into the Mediterranean Sea or other parts in this context. Okay, do we understand this? So just take a look at the map of Russia from this perspective. Right now, these areas with regard to Russians' control, all of these are almost frozen waters. These are 10 months out of 12, these are frozen areas. All of these are frozen areas, right? So you don't have any possibility of any navigation over here. One possibility that you get of navigation is the Baltic Sea, but the Baltic Sea is entirely only leading to the northern Europe. If you have to move into the international markets, which is Africa, Europe, and you take the Strait of Gibraltar to Brazil, let's say for example, or to West Asia, there is only one possibility for Russia to achieve these areas, that is the Black Sea region, right? And the Russia-Ukraine war has caused a certain kind of a blockade at the Black Sea region. There is a kind of a blockout in the Black Sea region caused by the Russia-Ukraine war, and due to this blockout, you are seeing that the movement in these areas has been choked, and the choking of this movement has led to a lot of economic problems, especially for the food that was supplied by Russia and Ukraine into Africa, into Europe, into West Asia, and then into Southeast Asia, right? So that's why the United Nations has created a program which is known as the Black Sea Grain Initiative, right? The program created by the United Nations was Black Sea Grain Initiative, which was a kind of a truce which was supposed to be held by the Americans, by the Russians, and the Ukrainians by the mediation of United Nations. So you have on one hand United Nations, then you have Turkey, then you have Russia plus Ukraine. All four of them had in a way entered into a pact known as Black Sea Grain Initiative, by which they will open up. Turkey was the mediator over here, main principal mediator, because Turkey is a passage by which these things move up, and these are the ways by which the food grain crisis problem was supposed to be solved by the international community, right? It was understood by the name Black Sea Grain Initiative. Okay, class, are we clear about this? Let me just take you through the website of the United Nations. Take a look at this diagram over here. This in a way shows to you how Russia and Ukraine open up for the world trade and how things move from Russia and Ukraine into different parts of the world. Just please take a look at this diagram. You can identify the way that it is moving through Bosphorus, Sea of Marmara, Dardanelles, Aegean Sea, and then to the Mediterranean Sea, and then to these parts of Europe, Asia, West Asia, Africa, and Southeast Asia. Now, currently, this movement has been subjected to a blockade, and the Black Sea Grain Initiative also could not open the blockade because the Russians have withdrawn from the Black Sea Grain Initiative heavily.